Woo! Oh my gosh, I am live for the first time in my YouTube history. Hey guys, I don't know why I'm looking down. This is so new for me, but I decided to go live. Um, as you can see, I'm a little risque up top, but I'm rocking the new Ivy Park collection, and I have another video that I'm editing currently to be able to share with you guys about that. I will not be talking about that in this video, but I did want to come live because number one, it's my first time coming live. It's also my first video in a very long time, but so much has changed within me, and I kind of wanted to be able to hop on here and talk about real things with you guys. There's so many different teachers on this platform now, which is like I love to see the evolution of like YouTube and the content. But there's so many teachers teaching law of attraction and teaching law of assumption and the teachings of Neville Goddard and um, manifesting and so many things, money, specific people, relationships, so on and so forth. And just as somebody who's been on this path for a minute, a long time student of like law of attraction and different spiritual principles, I would say, like, as of late, I've really gone back to the teachings of Neville Goddard, like a lot of people here on this platform have, and learning about the law of assumption. But I think what I'm most fascinated about and the part that I'm in on my journey is understanding how significant mindset really is. Like I've always been into personal development. Um I've always read books and you know Barnes and Noble self-help aisle was always my favorite from the time I was a little girl. My mom gave me the book Think and Grow Rich when I was 12 years old, and I'm now in my 30s and still. But what I'm understanding is how all of these lessons, whether it's law of attraction, law of assumption, whether it's self concept and personal development, they're all pointing in the same direction, but they're tackling different aspects because as humans, we're so complex, right? Um, it's not enough. What I'm learning is just that it's not enough to think positive. You know, you can think positive and affirm all you want, but sometimes for some of us, a lot of us, I don't know if all of us, I don't like to make absolute statements because I don't know all of us, but it's not always that cut and dry. Like sometimes your beliefs are a little bit more deeply embedded than you realize. And those are the things that actually stop you or block you from having the experiences that you want, or manifesting, right? That's the other thing. Another reason why I like that I'm going live now, or I'm live now, and I'm gonna continue to start going live is because I want to have candid conversations. Like I'm gonna be real. I'm a publicist by trade. I do marketing and PR, but my background is in broadcast journalism. So I know how to put things together. I know how to brand. I know how to make things look pretty. I know how to curate the hell out of something, right? I know how to tell a brand story. I think I do a good job with my own. Um, but sometimes I just want to get to the nitty gritty. Like everything can't be curated. I just want to have real conversations. Like so many people are on here teaching manifestation. So many people are on here teaching law of attraction from a space of just getting, right? And that's fine, but I think it becomes a problem when you have so many people realizing or hitting a wall at some point where they realize, oh, I'm not getting what I want. And it's because I think the huge part that's missing is that law of attraction, law of assumption is not even about getting. I mean, don't get me wrong, you will get, you will manifest, you will attract, you will vibe on the same frequency of some of the things that you've always wanted, or that you've always dreamed of having consciously. Um, but I think the part that's missing from a lot of the lessons that I've seen, and granted, I'm on this platform a lot. There are a handful of people that I actually learn from, and I have my favorites because of how they teach it. But law of attraction is more about becoming. It's more about who you have to become, for whatever vision that you're given. Whatever vision the creator, whatever you believe in, the creator, God, Jesus, whatever vision you're given, it's absolutely possible. Um, there are infinite possibilities in this reality. And the version of you right now, you're just living out one of those possibilities. But with every choice you make, with the thoughts you think, the emotions you charge those thoughts with, you are creating your reality. And if you show up consistently in a particular way, you're going to get a consistent result. If you show up inconsistent, you're going to get inconsistencies. And I think that's the part that's missing. I feel like there are only a handful of teachers that are actually teaching it, and those are some of the ones that I tune into. I'll probably give them a shout out here and there on my channel, because I think they're doing a great job. Hell, they were part inspiration for me getting back on YouTube and just teaching what I know from my perspective. And so shout out to them. um, but yeah, the biggest component of law of assumption and law of attraction and mindset is just who you are becoming. So, for whatever vision you hold, whether it's being with a specific person, whether it's manifesting a new career, whether it's attracting new friends or experiences, it's just stepping back for a second and asking yourself, who do I need to become in order to have that relationship with that specific person, or in order to um, be the person who gets that job, or in order to sustain a career in that field? Who do I need to become? Because for everything that you desire, you're going to have to align with the frequency of that, which means you're going to have to be something that you're not currently being, or else you would already have it. And that requires some deep reflection, some honesty about how you've been operating, and some honesty about how you need to close the gap. So, um, what I wanted to address on this video is like, how do you navigate the hard days in between manifesting and navigating the law of assumption? And I'm sorry for assuming that whoever's watching this knows what the law of assumption is. I'll just give you a brief um, spiel on it, but you can find tons of videos and information on YouTube about it. But law of assumption is a concept that was really taught predominantly by a great mystic by the name of Neville Goddard. And you'll see tons of videos with him and people teaching some of his teachings. But he was um, originally from Barbados and migrated to the United States. But he learned from an Ethiopian mystic by the name of Abdullah, who is still a great mystery in a lot of ways. But he was the teacher of um, people in the personal development fields, such as like Joseph Murphy, um, and a few others, Florence Scovel Shin, even some of the younger ones or more recent gurus like Bob Proctor, um, who I think Bob Proctor, the late Bob Proctor, actually learned from Neville. But those teachings traveled from Abdullah to Neville and Joseph Murphy and a handful of others who then went on to teach. And so today we have an explosion of lots of videos so you can learn all about it. But it pretty much teaches that life is one big mirror, right? Reflecting back to you through your experiences, through your relationships, who you are being at any given phase of your life. And there's a concept that people in this community use called everything is you pictured outwardly. And they have an acronym for it, but it just pretty much means everyone is you pictured outwardly, pretty much means that everybody in your experience is reflecting something back to you, about what you're assuming about them, whether it's an experience or a person or a thing. Whatever you're assuming about that thing, you're being shown the reflection of that by how it shows up in your reality. Whatever you're assuming about a person, you're being reflected that back to you according to how that person shows up in your reality. So a good example I can give is like, I was a former teacher. So, I taught many students, and I had some students that were like, I'll give an example. One student that was, to me, the sweetest kid. I never had a problem with them. They were super loving. They showed up every day ready to learn, very eager, very respectful. But that same student, when they would go with another teacher, they gave that teacher a hard time. That teacher thought that they were one of the worst behaved students, always had a problem with them, always sent them out of the office. I mean, out of the class to the main office. And, if we were to apply the law of assumption to that, or everything is you picture outwardly to that, well, for me, that student was always almost like an angel because that's the way I saw that student. I assumed that student was well behaved. I assumed that student was well learned and prepared and ready. And I addressed that student in that way. I would greet them pleasantly. I would give them a hug, like, "Hey, how you doing today? My favorite." Da, da, da. And they responded to that energy that I was giving them and the assumptions that I held about them, and they showed up to me in a pleasant way. Whereas the other teacher had negative assumptions. She thought the student was a brat. Maybe she had one bad encounter with that student, and from then on, judged that student, and said, "Oh, this student is so rude, and they always give me attitude." And because she had these assumptions, that's exactly what she got from that student. Because one of the things about our brain is that whatever we're looking for, we will find evidence of it. So if we assume that something is bad, our brains are automatically going to search our surroundings for evidence of that. It's something in our brains called the automatic nervous system, the ANS. And the way that it works is that um, your awareness becomes heightened whenever you have an idea about something. So it's the same way why vision boards are so effective. Your automatic nervous system now has this image that you place there. But maybe it's a car. My favorite car is a G-Wagon. So my automatic nervous system, because I'm now aware of this car and I told myself I love this car, I'm now going to be hypersensitive to seeing this car. So I'll notice that I start to see the car more and more on the road. I'll notice that I see it in magazines and commercials a lot more. People talk about it a lot more. We might think this is coincidence, but it's actually not. What it is that you are now more sensitive to that thing because it's now in your awareness. And so you're naturally going to be drawn to more of what's in your awareness. So that teacher had an awareness of that student, an assumption of that student that wasn't pleasant, and that's what they got. That example is to show that people show up in our lives according to what we assume. Experiences show up in our lives according to what we assume. If we have certain insecurities about ourselves, we're going to be proven right by what we naturally look for as evidence. Um, Somebody could not even be looking my way, but if I'm insecure, I could be like, "Oh my God, why is that person looking at me? Oh, they're looking at me. See, they just looked at me." Like, I could go on and on. You can learn so much more about this and tons of other videos on the internet, but I just wanted to bring it up because there are good days and there's some not so good days in between manifesting the things that we desire. And what I'm learning is that there's no, how do you say this? There's no right or wrong way to do it. When it comes to manifesting, it's just a matter of trying to stay as consistent as you possibly can. Meaning, you're gonna have days where you're super aligned, you're super, like, you really believe in yourself, you really feel high vibration, you probably have been reading audiobooks, you've been affirming, you've been doing all the techniques that all the gurus are sharing, and you feel amazing. And you just things start happening for you. Like you start seeing evidence of your manifestations, right? You start seeing evidence of the energy that you're putting out. But then there are some days where you doubt. There are some days where you feel really insecure. So you might want to go crawl in the corner and cry. Things aren't falling in your favor. Maybe you get bad news. And I just want to talk about how I've learned to navigate some of those hard times. And this video, I didn't intend for it to be super long, but I think it's really important for people to be more transparent about this process, because I think there's so many people on the internet right now who are learning or just now learning about law of attraction or law of assumption, and also just mindset and personal development. And their introduction to it, if they aren't encountering information that shares with them that, hey, you're going to have ups and downs, highs and lows, but be gentle with yourself, then that could be very damaging mental health wise, because not everybody has the wherewithal to know how to navigate these things. So I just want this video to be a representation of that. Like, life is not linear. It's not you're at A and all of a sudden you go to B and you're successful. Life is like you're at A, sometimes you go to Z, D, Q, R, S, sometimes you get sent back to the back of the line, sometimes you go forward only to go down again, sometimes you you know what I mean? Like it's not linear. Like life has processes and cycles and seasons, and not all of them are all positive, not all of them are all good. But what happens is that you, as you continue to learn and grow in your lessons, and as you continue to demonstrate a lot of what you're learning, which I call tools, as you continue to use the tools, the techniques that get you there, and also your resources, like therapy. That's something I don't see a lot of people talking about. In this community, but I think that it's helpful to know that as you're doing your law of attraction journey, your law of assumption journey, it's okay to also get help, because I know that as I'm listening to or watching a lot of these videos, people feel like, oh, if I'm manifesting something specific, not everybody in my life is going to understand that. And I agree. And your therapist might not even understand it. I'm not saying go to your therapist and tell your therapist about what you do spiritually. That's on you. I don't necessarily recommend that. What I recommend is that if you're having emotional bouts, if you're having heightened anxiety, if you're having frequent moments of depression, that you have to get some sort of assistance to stabilize. And some of these videos are really helpful because you have some teachers on here that are very thorough. They understand psychology and they share tons of information. One of my favorites is Dylan James, he's awesome. He's actually in school right now studying psychology, but he talks a lot about these concepts from a psychological standpoint. He still mentions Neville and law of attraction and law of assumption, but he talks about it from the standpoint of psychology. And I think that's really important. But for some people, that may not be enough, and you may need some professional intervention. So I want you to know that, you know, when you navigate the hard days don't have to be hard days. They could be hard moments, or hard minutes, and then you shift. But you only get there if you really absorb, some of the resources or take advantage of certain resources. Again, I mentioned therapy. Therapy could be great if you mention to your therapist, I'm just having a hard time managing anxiety. They could give you tools and resources that you can use, um, that are specifically tailored for you. And that will help you tremendously mentally as you figure out all the spiritual stuff and the other psychological stuff. One of the things that's really helped me is that, yes, I signed up for therapy. I've been doing it for the past few months now, and I think it's been helpful because sometimes you'll find that you can't always talk to the people around you, because they won't always be where you are in your journey to understand you, and you can't be upset with them for that. Everybody's in their own bubble, operating at their own pace, evolving in their own space and pace. Whereas a psychologist is a lot more neutral. They don't have any skin in the game. They don't know you personally other than what you share. So I think it could be really helpful. Another thing has been listening to affirmation tapes at night. Those are really big here on social media. I'm sorry, here on YouTube. um, I mentioned Dylan James. He's actually somebody who has a ton of affirmation tapes. And they actually are scientifically proven to work to reprogram your subconscious mind. And if you don't know about the subconscious mind, I'll probably do a video on that later. Or you can look it up on YouTube, you'll find something. Joseph Murphy's book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, is a great place to start. But these are just tools that I use, the therapy, the affirmation tapes, also exercise. Exercising, anything that really puts you in a good feeling space, you're going to have these tools on hand so that when you are experiencing familiar feelings that aren't so great, or you're telling yourself familiar thoughts that you're trying to overcome, you have something that you can revert to. Because I think even the Bible mentions something like this. Like you can't just wipe out all evil. You have to replace it with something. You have to replace the evil, the low vibration, the negative thoughts with something else. And that would be the opposite of that, right? So you have to replace those low moments with things that make you feel better. And that requires you to come up even with a routine. For me, I've developed at least, I want to say about 8 things that I do daily, um, even on the hard days, especially on the hard days. And that is, I have this thing where I radically forgive myself and other people, because forgiveness is healing, especially for the person who needs to forgive. Forgiveness is for me. Forgiveness sets me free. That's what Iyanla Vanzant said, and she was not lying. When you forgive, you free yourself of so much negative energy, and then you free up the other people who you're interacting with in your world. Who wants to walk on eggshells? Who wants to walk around angry like that? It takes so much energy to do that. So, yeah, no, we're not doing it. Also, I journal because it helps me get my thoughts out. I journal about so many different things. Sometimes I'll script. I use my tools like scripting. That's a big one in the manifestation community. I find it to be super effective. Sometimes I'll write out a conversation and I'll literally have that conversation same day with that particular person. Um, but it's just like mental rehearsal, which the more you start studying mindset, you'll start to realize mental rehearsal is a huge proponent to a lot of people's success. Like, you have to first see it, play it out in your mind as something that is possible, see yourself doing and being it. Because the more you can see yourself doing and being it, the more it feels natural and normal, and the easier it is for you to draw it in. Remember, law of attraction is all about attracting who you are or what you are, not what you want. You can want all you want. You can want all you want, but what you are is what you're going to attract. So, mental rehearsal helps you practice being the one, practice seeing yourself doing that thing you want to do, being that person or that version of you you want to be. Scripting helps me get there. Scripting helps me embody the version of myself that already has it. And what else do I do? Let's see. I have a list that I wrote. If I can see it. I'm learning to practice radical trust in the process. Like, even on a bad day, I know that whatever low I'm experiencing is not permanent. So, you live long enough and you realize even the things that you anticipate that aren't so great, you know that this too shall pass. So I just learned to, like, surrender and trust the process. Like, okay, I'm not feeling so great right now. Okay, I became aware of this thought that still hasn't gone away yet, quite just yet. And that's the thing, you're probably not going to eliminate the thought, but what you can do is eliminate or lessen your reaction to the thought. So you just trust that, okay, I'm getting better and better, better and better. Another thing I do is sometimes walking, I go for a walk in nature, connected with nature helps me feel better all the time. Um, Meditation helps me quiet my mind, that analytical part of my brain that wants to nitpick everything and figure everything out and be in control. The control freak in me comes from the analytical mind. So when I meditate, I get to disconnect from that and just be and just breathe and just practice stillness and recognize that whatever I thought was a problem is not so big. It doesn't even matter. Circumstances really don't matter because everything in life is so temporary, including circumstances, that you don't need to be bothering yourself about what you think is in front of you because it's not permanent and it doesn't matter. As you shift, everything around you shifts. This is no lie. And I'll talk way more about this in subsequent videos. I'll dive into specific topics. But just to touch on it, those are some of the things that I do. I also affirm. I do affirmations, but again, I'm learning that it helps to really do it when my analytical brain isn't so active during the day. So, programming your mind at night, I listen to affirmation tapes at night with the kind of things that I want to believe as I'm awake. Some people even make their own affirmation tapes. Super powerful when you can do that and you're very specific with what you want to create. And let's see, what else? I think I touched on everything. Oh, and just self love. Love yourself through the process. Be very gentle. Know that you are human, um, and you're not failing, you're learning. Uh, Even when you have a bad day, even when you react to certain things that you thought you were over, even when you're triggered, even when you act out of character, if you are now on this path and if you're watching this video, you attracted me into your experience as your teacher for the moment. And so you're on the path. And even when it doesn't look the way you think it should look, love yourself because you're doing a great job by even being here and being open to this information. You're doing a great job by loving yourself enough to know that you can change your reality. You're doing a great job by challenging yourself to know that what you see and what you've experienced is not permanent and that you can create something different. And you got to love yourself through all of it, the highs, the lows, the in between, because it's what makes you who you are. You know, a baby doesn't come out of the womb knowing how to walk, but as adults, we fall back and we give that baby the grace and the space to build up the strength and the muscles in their legs and to pay attention to how we put one foot in front of the other and absorb that information and to try to stand up and fall down on their little pamper butts. We give babies the grace to learn how to walk and talk. And when you're on this journey, you kind of got to see yourself as the little baby that's just learning how to walk and talk because it's a new way of existing. And the more you can do that and give yourself grace, the easier it gets. The more you realize that even the hard days are not really that hard, you know, the more you realize that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Um, and the more I would say, and I'm about to use a word that I don't think I've ever really used, but I think it's time to start using it because I'm finding it to be true. But the more you practice radical self love, the funner the experience of manifesting becomes. It doesn't have to be hard. Um, and that's not to dismiss anyone's struggle. I struggle. Um, I have hard days, and that's why I'm even sharing this video. But I think it doesn't matter how much you fall or how many times you fall. What matters is that you have the courage and enough love for yourself to get back up every single time. Just get back up, try it again. It's like learning to ride a bike without the training wheels. You don't quit on yourself if you really want it. You persist until it's natural to you. You persist in visioning, you persist in believing, you persist in affirming new things, you persist in implanting new beliefs, learning new information. You persist, 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 persist because you're going to expire. We all have an expiration date. We're not meant to live forever. But if you're going to be here, you might as well go after the big things. You might as well go after whatever it is, a relationship with someone specific, a new career path, that business, activism, whatever is on your heart, you might as well pursue it, even if you fail, because failure is not failure. It's a lesson. Even the painful parts of it, you learn, you grow, you stretch your awareness, you stretch yourself, and what you thought was once impossible becomes possible because you failed. And as you failed, you've grown and you've learned from those mistakes, or I don't even call them mistakes. You've learned, you've learned. And so I believe in you. I believe in me. That's why I'm showing up here on this channel, because I know that it is for me to teach what I'm teaching. And I'm finally shedding those old stories that I've had about myself and what I'm capable of. And I'm really proud of me, and I'm proud of you for even being here, because again, you attracted me on your journey. If I'm showing up on your screen, that's what this is. I believe in us, and it's going to be really good. We just got to stick in there, hang in there, keep showing up, keep trying. Don't give up because your dreams are valid, and impossible just implies that I'm possible and you're possible, and infinite realities are possible. And they will make manifest as we continue to persist and adjust and persist and adjust until these things harden into fact, as my good guy Neville Goddard likes to say. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in, all however many of you are watching. In this moment, this is my first live, so no one's here, but I know that this message is on my heart, so I know that it will resonate with so many other people. And so whenever you're watching this, may you be blessed, and may you know that you got this. Said your manifesting mentor. Till next time. Bye.